Dear friends, welcome to Christmas, a season of feasts, as Johann Sebastian Bach tried to show in his famous Christmas Oratorio. Each of the 6 parts, each of the 6 cantatas were dedicated to a different event on Christmas Day, leading all the way up to the Feast of the Epiphany, the arrival of the Magi. But perhaps no one spoke so simply about what happened at Christmas than the writer to the Hebrews, our second reading for Mass during Christmas Day. The writer says this. He says, "Long ago, God spoke to our ancestors in many and varied ways by the prophets. But in these days, these last days, he has spoken to us by a Son, whom he appointed heir to all things, through whom he also created the ages." This inspired writer shares with us something very significant on Christmas morning. When the Messiah came, it was the last of days, the fullness of time. His very word became flesh. In the prophet Isaiah, we hear, "Listen, your sentinels lift up their voices. Together they sing for joy." And why do they sing for joy? Isaiah explains, "For in plain sight they see the return of the Lord to Zion." I very much liked the well-known picture showing Santa Claus kneeling before the Christ child in the manger. It is a little disturbing, actually. It dares to tell us that all of the Christmas cheer that comes in the display of color and lights and tinsel on trees, stores full of decorations, the hustle and bustle of acquiring presents, and much more, all of this fun, these gestures of kindness, being with family and friends, yes, all of this that the world celebrates so willingly is actually because of a child born in poverty, a child who is king. As Handel says in his great Messiah, a child is born for us. Do you remember what Jesus said on Palm Sunday while riding into Jerusalem, to the shouts of the hosannas by the many crowds that had gathered there? "I tell you that if these people keep silent, even the stones will cry out." The hustle and bustle of the commercialized and secular Christmas is really a crying out to God, the God often forgotten. At midnight Mass in the year 2006, Pope Benedict XVI preached on the meaning of God incarnate as a little child. He says that God made himself small for us, and this is how he reigns. He does not come with power and outward splendor. He comes as a baby, defenseless and in need of our help. He does not want to overwhelm us with his strength. He takes away our fear of his greatness. He asks for our love. So he makes himself a child. Yes, it is true that God made himself small so that we can understand him, welcome him, and love him. The secular Santa kneeling at the crib is indeed shocking today, where we see an unwillingness to recognize the sacredness of the little ones from conception to natural death. By being a child, God is teaching us to love the little ones, to love the weak. In this way, he teaches us to respect children and families. The child at Bethlehem directs our gaze towards all children who suffer and are abused in the world, and there are so many. Yes, he became a child so that the word could be grasped by us. Yet the reality has been that the wood of the cradle actually points to the wood of the cross, where the Christ suffers in humanity over the centuries. On Christmas Day, we hear these words of the Gospel of John, "The true light which enlightens everyone was coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world came into being through him. He came to what was his own, and his own people did not accept him. Yes, the Santa at the crib is what Christ greatly desires to see. The world that makes no reference to him in daily life, to come and recognize a child born for us, the child given to us. Christmas time is a season of gifts, in imitation of our God giving himself to us. Let us allow our hearts, our souls, and our minds to be touched by this fact. Among the many gifts that we buy and receive, let us not forget the true gift, to give each other something of ourselves, to give each other something of our time, and to open our time to God. We need bread and nourishment. We need social celebration. We need some lights and decorations, but we do not live by bread alone. And this is a great poverty in our culture today. We need nourishment for the soul and meaning to our lives. The Christmas story with the animals at the manger comes to symbolize, in a certain sense, the altar on which lies the bread of life, the true food given to us. For a child has been born for us, a son given to us. Authority rests upon his shoulders. He is named Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. Dear friends in Christ, may the Christ child in all his smallness and simplicity raise his little hand in blessing over you and your family this Christmas and into the new year. May God be with you.